Have you ever regretted selling a motorcycle? Definitely, there's definitely a few in my list that I wish I'd kept hold of, one being my RGV 250. But on more modern terms, this Ducati Desert Sled is exactly that type of bike for the guy on the other side of the camera, Alan Rawlins. When we first rode one of these for Bike World, we did a really cool video 5 years ago, 4 years ago, don't know, seems like forever ago, on a black one with the yellow and retro stripes, yellow and orange stripes. It was a real surprise. I like the look of them, had never really ridden one, took it up to one of our favourite trails in the woods and went full send on it, and all of a sudden it was like, wow, this thing that is kind of a cool hipster retro-y scrambler bike, it rips. You can hit massive jumps and wheelie it and charge through puddles. It's got a properly cool engine that hasn't caught modern wheezy parallel twin disease. It's a proper air-cooled V-twin. Suddenly, I was fully in love with this thing. After that day, Mr. Bike World Al went out and bought himself one. He was hooked. So he bought one, ran it for about a year, 18 months, sold it for reasons none of us can really remember why, and regretted it ever since. So this summer, treated himself, bought himself another Desert Sled Ducati in the colour scheme he likes, which it's my second favourite colour scheme. The black one's my favourite, but this is Al's favourite. And having ridden it round, there's a few little bits he wants to improve. So we thought, what better way to kickstart a little bit of project bike building than to take one of our very own bikes that we love and we're probably never going to sell, and do a few nice tweaks, a few nice changes, and then go do some wheelies. Is that right, Al? I'm going to wheelie it. The box has suffered. It's been crisped. It shows how long it's been in my garage and we haven't got around to it. So, box of R&G stuff, especially with modern bikes like this. If you go on the R&G website, there is a massive, massive list of things that they can do for your bike. Some of it is relevant to off-roading it, some of them is relevant to road riding, some's track-based, some's just general accessories. Obviously the thing that everyone knows R&G for, other than crash mushrooms, is the tail tidy kit, which is going to be a massive help on this bike because pretty much every bike needs a tail tidy kit. A few good exceptions, but the Desert Sled definitely needs one. It's got a great big horrible stick out the back. It's for homologation, it's not Ducati's fault, but this is going to make that look 1,000 times better. So tail tidy is like top of the list for any mods. Then a little bit of crash protection. We're not intending to crash this one, but set of crash mushrooms, always worth fitting. And then with a bike like this, where you've got kind of wide forks and small wheels, the spindle sliders are good. These spindle sliders as well have the little bits for a paddock stand, so you can easily fit a paddock stand to the back of the bike, which is nice. Oil cooler guard, good for gravel riding, which we're definitely going to steal it and do. And then a little bit of a crash protection, practicality and looks thing is to fit handguards. So we've got Barkbuster handguards, which have got these big sturdy alloy frames. I've used these handguards on various bikes for over a decade. They're really strong. They're also quite malleable in that if you have a big crash and bend them, you can take them apart, put them in the vise and bend them straight 4 or 5 times with no problem. They're built of good stuff. That's why they're expensive rather than the cheapo ones you can buy on eBay. These ones will last more than one crash. So from a crash protection point of view and saving your levers, these are gold. But on top of that, they come with the flags, the brush guard bit, which bolts onto the handguard. They come in silver, black and white. Silver or white, we'll have a look in a minute, I reckon, on this. Al's obviously not getting any say in this. I've taken over completely. But those brush guards, as well as keeping bushes and stuff off your hands if you're riding off-road, they keep a little bit of the wind off as well, which come the colder months, which is pretty much January through to December, but about a week in the summer. It's just nice to keep your hands warmer. So cut to me fitting loads of bits to this bike and then go and do a skid. First job, wheel spindle sliders with the integrated paddock stand bobbins. Now some bikes have a bit where you can bolt the paddock stand bobbin into the swinging arm. Bikes that aren't particularly track or sporty tend not to. These make it really easy to use a fork type paddock stand. Obviously you can't take the wheel out with them in, but it's good for chucking the bike on and lubing the chain, and they double up as protection. So a bit of a multi-purpose tool there, and absolute piece of cake to fit. You have to fit the R&G logos facing up and down, otherwise you're disqualified from mechanicking for life. Not my rules. That's just the rules of the internet. Perfect. Next victim, tail tidy. Which sometimes these are an absolute piece of cake to fit and sometimes they're a bit more complicated. I don't envy the person whose job it is figuring out how to make all these fit and then writing all the fitting instructions on every different motorcycle. That's my replacement tail tidy. Goes in place of all of that. It's quite a satisfying amount of stuff saved. Obviously I've got to put the number plate itself on there at some point, eventually. Next job, just they've got a little adapter lead here that connects the RNG number plate light to the Ducati wiring loom. They do the same for the indicators as well. You can have the RNG indicators and there's an adapter for them, but we're just going to stick with the stock indicators for now. Yeah, thread all the wires back in, whack the bolts on, good to go. It was quite fiddly, but that is on. Just got to nip the last couple of bolts up now, but we've got a little tail tidy. There's a new metal brace piece here that replaces the plastic infill panel, and then I've just got tidy the wires up, put the little tool tray back in, relays back on, done. Next up, let's have a look at these handguards. It is the most Aussie name for handguards ever, isn't it? Bark busters, mate. Busting the bark. Apologies to anyone who is Australian that's offended by my terrible Australian accent. These are the dream. And if you look, there they are. So, we've got the VPS ones which got all the different colours. These are the dream because you can put them on with these metal frames and these blizzard guards are basically like those old bar muffs that everyone used to use when they were commuting, which were horrendous and always put your headlights on main beam. But these are semi-rigid because they're mounted to them and they've got a bit of a rigidity to the opening. So you can have bar muff hand warmers without not being able to use the controls. They are my favourite thing ever in winter. Go on, I'll look at the instructions, but only briefly. It's illegal looking at instructions. Is that way? I've got the covers on now. We went for the silver covers in the end. That was the decision, rightly or wrongly. I think it's the right way to do it. I like the silver ones. All right, front wheel spindle slider next. I'm sure there's a more intelligent way to get into this box. I was that kid at Christmas. Nice little Supermoto spec wheel slider. Got to make sure the logos are at the top, haven't we? We're good. Spot on. Now we're on to the exciting bit. We're going to do a little sound check of the standard pipe and then chuck the Austin Racing one on and see how much more awesome it sounds. Cool sounding bike, but could do with more. Where was I? Oh yeah. So we mentioned it a couple of times already, but we have got a new sponsor at Bike World in the form of none other than Austin Racing, purveyors of properly nice exhausts for motorcycles. We put one on our S1000RR project bike a few months back, and we thought to kick off the partnership properly, we've got a few really exciting things in the works. We've got some custom builds, some project bikes. I'm going to go down there and build some exhausts with them, see a little bit more about their manufacturing process, some nerdy tech stuff. But we thought we'd kick it off, look at that, with this beautifully made one, which is an aftermarket slip-on for Al's Ducati Desert Sled. So to finish off our build of making the Desert Sled more awesome, I'm gonna let it speak. Nice. Moment of truth. If it can be much less quieter, much more awesome. Now it sounds like a Scrambler. It looks so much better as well. Whee! Done. All that's actually left on our list of things we wanted to do was the crash mushrooms that go on the main engine mount, but we've run out of time for today, so that looks a whole lot cooler. Wicked little exhaust, a few nice accessories, handguards that are going to make it just nicer to ride in the colder days that are unfortunately heading our way. Yeah, little tweaks for a bike that we love. All that's left to do now is skids and wheelies.